I'm Gordon Snyder from the National Center for Telecommunications Technologies at Springfield Technical Community College, and I'm here today with Keith Parent, who's the President and CEO of Court Square Data Group. Now, Court Square Data Group is a strategic information technology consulting firm offering managed services, quality assurance services, and IT solutions for companies in transition. The company's headquarters is in Springfield, Massachusetts, and there's offices throughout the Northeast. Court Square predominantly services the life sciences market. Hi, Keith.
Good morning, Gordon. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Thank you for coming over to our campus, and it's great to have you here.
This is fabulous. It's the first time I've been here, so I'm pretty jazzed about seeing this in action.
Excellent. It's a beautiful facility we have here. Now, let's talk a little bit about Court Square Data Group. Now, you operate in a rather unique market, and can you tell us a little bit about the kinds of services your company offers and what exactly this life science market that you're involved with is?
Sure, I can do that. We actually have two sides of our business. We have a project side of our business and a managed service side. We are a managed service company providing IT solutions for companies in transition. What that means is most firms are either growing or shrinking or adding new technology or doing different things within their organization. And what we try to do is figure out how to help them deal with that transition. That's from a project side of our business. And then we drive it toward a managed state, and we use ITIL-based practices to manage that infrastructure for them better. ITIL stands for IT Infrastructure Library, a set of standards for managing infrastructure. We predominantly service the life science industry, and we include pharmaceutical, biotech, medical device in that life science market, specifically because there's a certain level of knowledge you have to have in the industry around regulatory compliance that they have to deal with for the government regulations, specifically around 21 CFR Part 11 or HIPAA regulations for patient privacy.
Okay, that's interesting. Can you tell us a little bit more about your company history? It'd be interesting to hear
Sure.
about how you started, what it was and what it is now,
Well, I started back in 1995 over Frigo's Deli in Springfield. That's where I got our name. We were just off of Court Square, so we had to have a name. You could find Court Square Data Group. It was back in 95. If you remember back then, the internet was just really starting. AOL was a big thing. Everybody was on. So I had come from digital. That was my background. And I wanted to have an acronym for the company, and I was trying to think of something. We were actually late for a meeting down at Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, and I needed a name for the company to sign our first contract. And over lunch, we thought about different things, and I thought data had to be in the name, and I thought that I liked the concept of a group of people, so I wanted to put that in as part of the name. So we thought of Pynchon and all sorts of other different things around Springfield, but we ended up with Court Square Data Group because I liked the CSDG as part of that, and so we have CSDG.com is our internet site. So back then, it was pretty big to get something that early on and have that. We didn't get .net, so if you go to CSDG.net, you'll see California School of Dog Grooming. So I'll give them a plug here. But we started out. It was kind of I wanted to do consulting. I liked doing computer work. So at the time, I was an ex-techie, so I was proficient in VMS. So I was a VMS consultant. I had done some Apple Macintosh and some Newton programming. So the Apple Newton. I don't know if you remember the Apple Newton, the handheld Newton.
Yep.
So we were doing some of that work. There was only 3 of us that started the company. We got it up and running. I had 2 partners at the time, and we had a small office. And one of my first 2 clients were Pfizer Pharmaceutical and Armco Steel. So I was either in Connecticut or I was out in Pittsburgh.
Good-sized clients, huh?
They were good-sized clients.
Yeah, excellent.
And it was a lot of fun at start. And they just kept asking me to do more work, more project work, bring in more people. And we kind of morphed to do a little bit of everything for everybody. And what you find as an IT consulting firm is you have to have a uniqueness about what you do, and you have to look and see what you're good at. So back in the late 90s, you couldn't pick up the phone without getting a project. Everybody wanted IT. You were getting into the Y2K stuff. And luckily, we didn't do a lot of Y2K work. We did some, but not a tremendous amount, which was good for us because after 2000, everything just tanked. But for us, it was great because we were able to do a lot of different things. And one day I could be on a factory floor implementing MES systems in a factory, or another day I could be in a hospital lab working with doctors and physician assistants and laboratory technicians. So I like the concept that IT can affect so many different aspects of business.
That's great. You know, we use the term IT enabled or ICT, Information Communications Technology enabled, in our with our NSF center. So it's great to hear you say that. Now, you've kept the business in Springfield, which I think is great. Could you comment a little bit about why? And
Sure. When we first opened the business, we looked around where we were going to be. And one of the things, because I was traveling so much, it was good to be close to an airport and good close to the highway system. So I was always on the road. So it was a good place for us to be in Springfield. We stayed downtown Springfield specifically because I think just to have a location there for people to come and see and stay if they came in to visit with us in the office. We don't necessarily have to be in Springfield, but for me, I think that Springfield is a hub from an economic development perspective of Western Mass, and we wanted to be a part of that.
how many employees do you have now?
We are now over 100. I
Wow.
believe we're about 107 at this point, but on a daily basis, it may change. So it's growing. It's been growing like crazy. The last 4 or 5 months, we've added about 20 people, which is pretty substantial growth for us.
Excellent. That's great. Now, a little more on this growth. Where do you see yourself in maybe 18 months, 5 years? You know, could you project out a little bit?
Well, where we're going to be, I mean, we just had a major meeting. We have quarterly meetings with our employees. We try to share with them what we're doing on a regular basis, because I think it's important that employees know where you're trying to go and what you're trying to do. So at our first quarterly meeting of the year, we actually brought out a 5-year plan, and we told the employees, this is what we're trying to do. We have the concept, we set two, when you're in business and you're a small company, you're trying to grow and you're trying to get everybody involved in what you're doing. So we set what we call 2 big, hairy, audacious goals. One was to grow. The first one was to change an industry. Our goal is to change an industry, which is the life science industry. And I'll talk about that in a second. But right now, that was our first goal. And I said, how can we do that? As the size that we are today, we can do something of changing that. And I've worked very hard over the last few years, specifically with my staff, to get a message out, the concept of good systems practice within the life science industry. And so that's the first start. So you got to create a buzz around that, and you got to get people behind what you do. But the second goal is to grow geographically throughout the country. We've identified 5 major areas that we want to grow into over the next 5 years, and there's specific cities that are focused on the life science industry, whether it's medical device or pharmaceutical or biotech. So we have a plan right now. We see ourselves growing out our New Jersey office. We actually have 3 offices here. Springfield's our headquarters. We have an office in Groton, Connecticut, and one in Parsippany, New Jersey. This year, we're going to be growing out our New Jersey office. We're going to be adding an Eastern Mass office. And early next year, we're actually looking at an office in the Philadelphia area, basically northern Delaware, Philadelphia. There's a good concentration of pharmaceutical biotech companies in that area. And then what our goal is to actually go down further into the Raleigh, North Carolina area, get the Research Triangle. Then we're going to jump over to the West Coast in the San Diego, La Jolla area, and put something out there. And then we have a number of other areas after that. Part of what we do is we look at how we affect the market, what's in the market, how the market changes. That's the one thing about the life science industry. Because there are advances in medicine and research on a daily basis, it's changing very quickly. From when I started Court Square back in 1995, there are tremendous advances in genomics and proteomics and the way that researchers actually find solutions for some of the problems for healthcare problems. So we want to be nimble enough that in the next 3 to 5 years, we know where we're going based on where the industry is going. So we're looking on a regular basis at how that changes.
That's great. Keith, how do your service offerings directly affect your life science clients?
Well, in our life science practice, we actually have a practice that's targeted specifically at our life science clients. What we're looking at there is from the aspect of quality assurance. We actually have a quality assurance and compliance. I mentioned earlier talking about changing an industry and regulatory compliance within the life science. That's a uniqueness that we have to offer because the regulations, those 21 CFR Part 11 and HIPAA, require that our clients spend a lot of time documenting what they have from an infrastructure and an application standpoint. They validate their applications, that they say what they do, But you're thinking about patient safety. The overall underlying concept is safety. So you want to make sure that everything that we do from an IT perspective guarantees that safety in the long run in the end result, which is going to be the drugs, the medical devices, or any of the things in between. So our practice our life science practice is primarily focused at helping with the application side, how we implement new applications within the life science industry, quality and compliance, and that includes things like infrastructure qualification as well as application validation. And what that really means is there's a cycle before you can put a new application out. You have to say, this is what it's expected to do, and this is how we're going to guarantee that it's going to do that. And so we have a whole group that works with both the scientists or the business people within our life science clients and validates their software prior to it going into production. And that's a big part of a life cycle at a pharmaceutical or a biotech. So that's one part of that. We also look at different aspects within the life science arena. I talked earlier about in life science, there are multiple phases of drug development. In the pharmaceutical specifically, in preclinical, there could be somebody who's focused in on